Good morning, guys. We can start working today. So please go to the page 94. Page 94. Okay. Key concept. You can use what you know about equivalent radios and operations with fractions to write a radio of fractions as a unit rate. Tia skateboards 2/3 mile for every 1/6 hour. Okay, so in this part, for example, you have 2/3 miles and you have that it's 1/6 of the hour. So you divide 2/3 and the 1/6, and this is gonna be equal what? You copy again the numerator to 2/3 and you are going to multiply by the inverse of 1/6. So I'm going to multiply 2/3 times 6/1. And this is divided again by the number multiplied by his inverse. Remember that the number multiplied by his inverse is going to be at the end 1. So you only have the operation that is on the top. At the end, the answer in this case is 4. So it's going to move 4 miles in 1 hour. Remember, we have one number at the beginning and later we find something else in 1 hour, right? We are trying to find in 1 hour. Okay, in the part that says, do you understand? Okay, remember that you need to be complete on the book, the part that I explained, sorry. The first question is, do you understand? Is the essential question. Why it's useful to write a radio of fractions as a unit rate. Okay, in this case, for example, it's easier if we work with fractions because, for example, 1/6 of the hour, you are dividing 1 hour in 6 equal parts. You are taking at least 10 minutes. 10 minutes again, if you multiply 10 minutes 6 times, you are going to have the 6 parts of the hour. In this case, I use 1/6. And it's easier to work with fractions than to work with the part with the 10, with the number 10. Because in the part of the miles, you have fractions and you need to work with the same kind of numbers. If you have a rational number that is a fraction, I need to work with another rational number that is going to be a fraction. I cannot be working with fractions and with whole numbers because it's not going to be so comfortable. So the number 2, we need to use a structure, sorry. Jacob mixes 1/3 cup of yellow paint for every 1/5 cup of blue paint to make green paint. How many cups of yellow paint are we needed for 1 cup of blue paint? We need to complete the table below. So if he mixes 1/3 cup of yellow paint for every 1/5 cup, what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide again the 1/3 of the yellow cup by the 1/5 of the blue cup of paint. So we can solve it. So you can see the exercise. You have 1/3, this is the yellow cup, and you're going to divide it by 1/5. This is the blue cup. remember that I can change in this case. If I'm dividing 1/3 over 1/5, I show you two ways to solve this. Remember, the first way is to change the division like this. 1/3 divided by 1/5 equal, and later you change this into a multiplication. 1/3 times, but remember, if I change into a multiplication, I need to invert the order of the fraction. So now 5 is my numerator, 5/1. And you only solve the result multiplying. You have 1 times 5, it's 5, and 3 times 1, 3. Okay? Or, but in this case, you are going to obtain the fraction, right? You obtain another fraction, but you don't have the relation in 1 hour. That's the reason why I prefer, okay, you already know this method. We studied in the last classes when we solved the division and multiplication with the rational numbers. But the way that they show you on the book, it's similar. You have 1/3 and you multiply by the inverse of this one. 5/1 divided by 1/5 multiplied by 5/1. This is the way that the books show you how to solve this division, right? Then you multiply 1 times 5, it's 5, and 3 times 1, it's 3, over 1 times 5, over 5 times 1, that is 5 again. Remember, this is going to be what number? It's going to be 1.
1.
Always that you multiply one number by its inverse, it's going to be 1. So I don't need to write all this procedure. I'm only going to divide by 1. Oh, and what is the answer now? That I have 5/3. I have 5/3 of the yellow paint for each 1 cup of the blue paint. That's the reason why I prefer to solve it in this way and not in the other way, because if we solve it in the other way, only changing the division into a multiplication, at the end you need to add the 1, because you need the 1 to be in here. This is 1 cup of the blue paint, and this is the content for the yellow paint. The yellow paint is 5/3 of the cup by each 1 cup of the blue paint. So I don't understand. I don't know if it's clear, if you understand all the problem. Remember, we only divide and later changing the division into a multiplication, but always relating the part that I need to 1. It could be 1 hour, or in this case, for example, is 1 cup. So that's the reason why at the denominator I have 1 cup of the blue paint. So you can be completed on the book. Remember, you have a space, a little space in here. So we are going to write the 5/3. This is the part I circled for you. Okay. Number 3 is construct arguments. How is making a table of equivalent ratios to find the unit rate similar to finding the unit rate by calculating with fractions? Use a specific example to explain your reason. Okay, in what kind of exercise did we do charts? Equivalent radius, I think that it's example 2. It's like the example 2. And it's like, it's similar to example 3, but in the example 3, they don't have a chart. We have a chart in the example 1 and in the example 2. Find a, but I need unit rate and unit rate calculating with fractions. So if we use a specific example about this, it could be the example 2, because in the example 2 we have the unit rate and we have the more specific chart. We can use example 1 too. It's okay. It's very similar. This topic is very similar, and the important part is that we are relating one quantity with another. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's different. For example, in the man with the bicycle, he was riding the bicycle, okay, one distance, and he ride this speed. So you are relating the distance with the speed in this case. So the chart is going to help you to keep more in order to work easily. And in the example 2, it's because you are relating the distance in square feet, and you are relating the time. Again, you are relating the time that is going to take to finish in this. So yes, you can use example 1 or 2 to complete this one. To find the unit rate, yes. Okay. Example 4, do you know how? Claire boarded an airplane in Richmond, VA, and flew 414 miles directly to Charleston, SC. It doesn't matter where is she going. The important fact is she has a distance in miles, and later you have the time in hours. You have 3/4 of the hour. You need to notice about these important facts when you are going to solve some exercises. You need to write the important information, in this case, the miles, the distance in miles, and the time in hours. So how fast did Claire's airplane fly in miles per hour? So miles per hour. I'm going to divide the miles on the top and the part of the time, so the hours are going to be in the denominator. Do you understand why? Yes, because I need to relate the miles with the time in hours. So I need to divide the hours on the denominator. Okay, we are going to solve it on the board. Remember, we are going to try to solve the more exercises we can today, but I'm not going to finish, so you need to finish the rest, the other exercises on your home to presentate this exercise on Friday. Completed. You have 414 miles divided by, these are miles. You only write MI and it's miles. And this divided by 3/4 of the hour. 3/4 of the hour. You don't care about the units. I'm going to write it in other color. This is miles. These are hours. So in this way, you remember that miles over hours. We need to multiply. Remember, I divide 414 by 1. Remember, the 1 is not going to affect my fraction. So I divide by 1. And I multiply by the inverse of this one. 4/3. This is divided by this number multiplied by its inverse. So at the end, we are going to have 1 in here, but I'm going to write it and later I erase it so you can see it. 3/4 times 4/3. Again, 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 3 is 12. You divide again, and this is 1. So I'm not going to write all this. I'm only going to write 1. This is divided by 1. Now I can multiply in here. I need to multiply 414 times 4. It's 1,000. It's 1,656 over 3, right? Because 1 times 3 is 3. This is over 1 hour. The 1. Okay, don't forget to copy the 1. We are going to divide 1,656 by 3. It's 552 miles over 1 hour. This is the miles and this is the hour. You need to divide because you can, if you divide 1,656 by 3 is a exact division, you obtain that is 552 miles divided by 1 hour. Remember that the 1 is going to be on the denominator. You need to copy the 1 because the 1 is the important part. This is the number of hours, the number of cups, the number of, I don't know, the number of things that they are asking. So you need to copy the 1. Maybe the 1 sometimes doesn't seem so important, but in this case, it's important to relate about the quantities. Remember, they are different units. In the 552, you have miles, and the 1 is in hours, so you cannot eliminate the 1 because it's in a different unit of the miles. It's a different unit, so you need to copy the 1. The exercise 6. Jed is baking shortbread for a bake sale. The recipe calls 1 1/4 cups of flour and 1/2 a stick of butter. How many cups of flour will Jed need if he uses 3 sticks of water? So in this case, when we can divide, and we are going to obtain something like this, 1 number divided by 1. And at the end, we can multiply by 3 to obtain the 3 sticks of butter. I don't know if we have time to solve this. The first part is to convert the cups of flour into a improper fraction, okay? It's the very first step to convert this into a improper fraction. So because I don't want to work with these numbers. And in the number 5 is very similar to Brad buys 2 packages of mushrooms. Which mushroom costs less per pound? Explain. You are going to solve the first, like the first example, the example 4 we solved. For each one of these packages, for the cremini, you divide the 11.25 for 2/3 of the pounds, and you do the same with the chanterelle. I don't know if it's 1 or 7, but it's in dollars, and you divide this amount of money for 1/2 of the pound. So you do this the same for each one. for the number 1 and for the number 2 package, and you compare the answer. What is going to be cheaper, cost less money. So you solve the two of them, and you compare. So guys, if you don't have any other question, I'm going to finish the class in here because you have to go to other classes. So